Hi everybody, it's Sarah Cray with Let's Make Art, and I teach watercolor, and this week we are painting the rabbit.
Ooh.
And we have Michael filming with me.
Hello.
Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.
And we will be doing this project in 7 steps, which I know sounds like a lot, but you guys can handle it. Not even worried about it. So, our very first step, we will be painting our eyes. Our second step, we will be painting the inside of the ears. Our third step, we will be painting the dark values on the face and the ears and then blending out to kind of like color in all of it. Our fourth step, we will be doing the same thing on the chest and body. Our fifth step, we will be doing the mouth and nose. The sixth step, we will go in and do these fur textures that we have going on the forehead and the chest. And our very last step, doing those whiskers and eyelashes. Okay? Now for this project, we use 2 paintbrushes. We are using a round 4 and a liner 2. This is the Princeton Heritage series. You can also use the Let's Make Art Classic series brushes. If you only have a round 2 and a round 6, you can absolutely still do this project. I will say that the liner does make it extremely easy to do the whiskers though, just a heads up. For our colors, we have our first color is golden brown. And these are Dr. P.H. Martin paints, okay?
Going old school.
We're going old school here. Second color is coffee brown. Our third color is crimson. Our fourth color is black. And then we also have bleed proof white here, which is also from Dr. P.H. Martin. I'm just gonna leave this in the tube and stick my liner in there when I'm ready to use it, or my paintbrush in there, but if you guys wanna try and put that out on your palette, you're free to. I will say that bleed proof white is thicker than the other paints, so don't feel like yours is dried out if it's thick, where the other ones are very liquidy. This is Dr. P.H. Martin, which is a similar liquid-based, dye-based brand. They're excellent paints. These are the Radiant series. But if you only have your Dandelion Paint Company, which is our in-house paint, then you can use Honey Brown for golden brown. You can use Sepia for your coffee brown. You can use either rose red or red for your crimson, and then black and white. Okay? All right, let's do our outline, and then our oath, and then we will paint. Oh, I need a pencil. So to do your outline, you're going to tape your outline to your paper. You're going to put your graphite paper dark shiny side down. You are going to use a pen, pencil, whatever you have, and whatever mark you make, it will transfer onto your watercolor paper. So I always like to do a test mark first and then check it and see how that shows up. That shows up pretty darn good, so I'm going to keep going. You want to try and make your outline as light as possible because watercolor is transparent. And what that means is we will be able to see these pencil lines through our paint. So I will do my outline darker so you guys can see what I'm doing on camera. But for those of you at home, try and make it as light as possible. And you can make it lighter by doing a lighter pressure. Now let's say you're doing the lightest pressure that you can possibly do, and it still is pretty dark. Well, then look at what you're using to trace. If you have a ballpoint pen, that's a really hard point, so it's gonna make a darker line. So switch it to like a felt tip marker or a softer, like a Fudenosuke, or even like a Crayola marker or something. It's such a soft tip that it won't, it will transfer lighter.
And if that's still too hard, a cooked spaghetti noodle. Just drag it around.
Yeah, that would work, honey. Okay.
While you're tracing, got a fun little bunny fact for you.
Okay, I love bunny facts.
They're kind of named like deer, so a male bunny is a buck, and a female bunny is a doe, and a baby bunny is either a kit or a kitten, depending on who you ask.
Really?
Yeah, isn't that funny?
That is funny.
They're like deer cats.
Hmm.
Did you ever see a jackalope?
Yes.
My grandma had a jackalope on her wall.
That's interesting.
They're fake. I don't know. It took me a long time to realize that it was fake because it was there in front of me.
You're like, but I see it.
Anyways, naming a male bunny a buck makes more sense if they had antlers.
Yes, it does. Sorry, I'm focusing like so hard on this outline right now. I'm like making sure I get all of the areas. Now, for our outlines, I want you to look at them as if they are just general guidelines. This isn't a coloring book. I don't want it to be blocky. I just want it to give you an idea of, one, where the form of things go, and then where the values of things go. And then before you take it off, lift up and make sure there isn't like some strong marks that you forgot. Now, I'm not gonna outline my whiskers on here because it's actually super difficult trying to trace a thin white line when you go to paint it. So but it's there to remind you to paint whiskers. But I'm not gonna trace it because I don't wanna try and have to like match up a thin line with my drawn on line. That's really hard. Making sure I got everything I needed to get. Now also, let's say you lift your outline off and untape it, and then you realize there's something you forgot, just eyeball it. At that point, it's not worth trying to line it back up again, so don't stress, okay? Okay, let's do our oath. If you can raise your right hand and repeat after me. I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise to be kind to myself.
I promise not to compare my work.
I promise not to compare my work.
And I promise to have fun.
And I promise to have fun.
Thank you. Okay, now we're gonna start with the eyes. Now, I don't know if you guys notice, we are, I did like a 5-minute paint version of this on our YouTube channel that some of you maybe have seen. And I'm approaching this a little bit different than that 5-minute painted. And that's mostly because I realized that the entire time I didn't have the eyes painted to the very end. And I do that personally, but it actually makes your painting look like super funky the whole time until you put the eyes in.
I think the word is horrifying.
So I started to do eyes first when we do animals and I'm teaching, just so you guys understand. It's not that your painting is bad as you're painting it, but the eyes actually add a lot. And I realized that if I paint the eyes in first, then it's not as scary for you guys painting because it doesn't look scary anymore. So, and also animals are kind of funny where they really don't come together till the very end. So please do not judge your painting until you are done. Because the process, they're gonna look weird, okay? All right, so I have my black. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna start, I have little circles here for the pupils. That's gonna be the darkest part of the eye, okay? And then the section above that is actually the glare. So I'm going to avoid the section above.
There's a period of time where I thought I was going to be a homesteader.
Yes.
And I decided that we were going to only eat organic, homegrown meat. And I started looking into like raising rabbits for meat. And about 2 hours later, I decided, nope, I do not have the heart to raise my own bunnies.
Because you gotta kill them.
Yeah, and they're so cute.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They are really cute. And then on this left one, there's a slight glare on the outer bottom ring that's like thin. So I'm gonna leave a white space there too. And it's only on the left one really. Now if you forget, if you like painted in that already, don't stress because we have bleed proof white, so we can always add highlights back in. That's the benefit of bleed proof white, I think so. Now, I'm using a round 2 right now. However, if you have a round 4, you can use that. Really, a lot of the paintbrushes can be substituted. Okay, we're gonna leave that. Now oh wait, I gotta do this section. Now we will go back into this a little bit later after it's dried for a second, but for now, we're gonna let this guy be. And we're gonna move on to step 2. We're gonna paint the inside of our ears. I'm gonna grab my round 4. I'm gonna take my crimson, and I'm gonna grab a tiny, tiny bit of golden brown just to make it like kind of more of that peachy, you know, that like ear skin color that you see with animals? It's kind of like a peach color. So I have crimson, I have this peachy color off to the side, and then the last color I'm gonna mix is crimson and black.
For death metal.
Yes, that's why. Because we want the darkest value to be at the bottom here, and that's because that's where you see the ear kind of keep going through that hole. It's the farthest away from us, so it's going to be the darkest value. Okay, so I have this dark. I'm going to paint the dark in first. So right there. Then I'm going to rinse my brush, grab a little bit of this crimson, pull that to it, introduce that to the party. And I'm going to start to blend out using water. And then this is about where I'm going to grab that peach, add a little bit of warmth to that. Okay. And if it overlaps the lines a little bit, that's okay, because we're going to go back and paint on top of them. So it's not a huge deal. Just make sure that like at this, right where it's poking out, that's where we want to have it be its darkest. That's how it communicates depth. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. Now I have this horrible habit of, even though I'm right-handed, I should paint the left-hand side first so that my wrist doesn't smear. I never do that though. I always paint the right side first, so then I have to like finagle my way around. But if you're left-handed, that would have worked out perfect. I just keep my wrists lifted, or you can turn your paper, whatever's easier. So I got the crimson, I'm doing the peach, and then you just kind of add water to that peach to get that lightest value on top. Okay. Okay. That was step 2. We're already like almost a third done with this painting. Okay. Now we're going to do step 3. We're going to do our dark values and then blend those out. So to get my dark brown, I'm going to grab golden brown and I'm going to grab coffee brown and mix that together. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of black in there too. Now, just to give you guys a little hint, the golden brown has very, very strong green undertones. Naturally, that's just how the color is. And you'll notice that sometimes if you're using just golden brown, as it dries, sometimes the colors separate, and so you might have green areas, and with coffee brown, it's actually a very red brown. So there might be sections as your painting dries that you'll have pops of green and pops of red. That is how these paint colors are naturally. I personally love them. I think it's so fun to get pops of color after things have dried because it's like a little surprise. But if it frustrates you, what you can do is you can use the colors complement to tone down those colors. So for example, let's say I have my golden brown mixture and I have my coffee brown mixture, and when I add black, it has this green undertone. Well, you can use red, the crimson here, in that mixture, and that will warm up that brown. And now it has a more neutral brown instead of a green brown. See what I'm saying? So do what feels right to you. I love mixing colors and getting different tones or hues of brown. So you get to choose what kind of brown you want. All right, now I have this dark brown, and I'm going to start on the inside section of these ears is where I'm going to have my darkest brown. Okay. And then now what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse and add water and blend to get a lighter value. So I'm kind of like coloring, painting all of the ear right now. And I'm overlapping that peach color a bit.
You're leaving a white spot, yeah?
I am leaving a thin white spot, and that's because I want there to be fur textures. We'll go in with our bleed proof white and actually do little hairs coming off of that. But I wanted to show that there's a little bit of white hair. But don't leave your white spot too thick, because then it will distract, okay? And then if you want to do more layers, where you're like, okay, that's dark, but it's not dark enough, just paint again, right on top. And I love to do a little dark tip on an ear.
Would you like some naming convention facts?
Yes.
All right, so the difference between a rabbit and a hare. They are different creatures, though they're similar in size and have similar diets. They have different numbers of chromosomes, so they're separate.
Okay.
Rabbits were called conies for a long time. That's why Coney Island is a thing, because it was full of rabbits.
I did not know that.
Then the question becomes, well, what about a bunny, right?
Yes.
Bunny is not a thing. Bunny is a term of endearment. It's like saying like cute little rabbit, like bunny rabbit. Like bunny used to be a nickname like for cute.
What?
Bunnies are not a thing. Bunny is just like a young, cute rabbit.
What?
Yeah.
Wait a second.
So the two distinct ones are rabbits and hares.
Do rabbits have relaxed ears?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter?
No.
So, wait a second. You're telling me that all of this time when I thought that the difference between rabbits and bunnies is that bunnies have relaxed ears and rabbits do not is totally false?
Totally false.
Wow.
Bunny is just like a cute rabbit. Like, oh, a bunny rabbit. Like a sweet baby.
Wow. I had no idea.
Yeah.
I feel lied to.
Yeah.
I don't know by who. Myself. Why did I think that?
I don't know.
Am I the only one?
I thought that too. I thought that too. I
Okay.
really just looked it up a little while ago, and turns out bunnies aren't a specific subset. They're just a term of endearment.
Wow.
So that's a bunny rabbit you got going on, because I think it's cute.
It is cute. Okay. So we started with our ears and we're going to keep on going. So I'm going to use the same dark brown mixture, and on the right hand side of the nose is going to be where we have our darkest value. Okay, so we're going to paint that in. And then I'm just going to use water and blend up. Now I love pops of color. So sometimes when I'm doing just these washes like this, I'll drop in some golden brown. I'll drop in some coffee brown just to get some vibrant colors going on. Because I'm just a fan of that. I just think it's like, look, did you see how red that coffee brown turned?
Yes.
In that middle?
Uh-huh.
That is totally normal, you guys, and really, like, don't get mad at it. That's what it's supposed to do, and I think it's lovely.
The interweb says that they used to call not only small human children bunny for cute, but all little animals, like, oh, bunny puppy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then it just kind of stuck with rabbits.
Rabbits were the only, like, cute ones that, like,
Eternally cute.
So I'm kind of just, like, blending my wash around the cheeks. Kind of coloring, painting in the rest of the face. Now I want to point out that there's a layer. We want to show that there's, like, layers here in the mouth. So on the cheeks, we're going to add a darker value on the outside of it. Because when you add a dark value, when you're creating form, it pushes it back. There's also a darker value right underneath the eye. Now you want to be careful if your black is still very wet from when we put the eyes in, it will bleed.
It'll look like a crying mascara rabbit.
Yeah. Okay, and then a darker value on the right hand side of this eyelid. Gosh, this little guy's cute. Okay, and then using mostly water and just pulling a little bit of color from the browns I already put down, I'm going to color in the nose. I need to say paint in the nose, right? Like that. But you want to make sure you keep your nose the lighter value because that is what's poking out. You can't tell because this is a front-facing view of the rabbit, but we want the thing that's closest to us to be the most highlighted item. So whether you are painting a animal or a person or whatever, if it's looking at you and the light source is in front of you, then whatever's sticking out from that source will be the lightest value. That's why if you're painting people, the nose is the lightest value because that is what's coming out at us.
I feel like it's a snout.
Is that true?
I have no idea. I feel like a snout is a protrusion that your nose sits on.
For animals?
I mean, I don't think humans have snouts, essentially.
I mean, I'm not, please don't ask me. I don't know.
You seen some snouty people?
No, I just, I don't trust my judgment enough to tell people like I know the correct terminology for things.
I'm making this up. I didn't look this up at all. I was just thinking like, I feel like the nose is on the tip portion and like snout extends it out. That is not anatomically based on anything.
I'm sure someone will know and they will comment and let us know. So please do so. And this is another reason why I love watercolor, is as we layer these paints and blend them out, you're gonna get different colors and washes, and I just want to remind you guys, like, that is the beauty of watercolor. Really embrace that. Like, let some of these colors pop and shine, let the textures do its thing, like, let it be a little bit funky and free, you know, like, let it have a painterly feel, and by painterly I mean let them see your brush strokes, let them see that layering. Just because it's not blended smooth and perfect does not make it bad. Okay, I'm going to do one more dark value on those cheeks, those little cheeky cheeks. Just mixing a dark brown here. Because sometimes when you do a dark value and then blend it out, you blend out your dark value too much and it just kind of becomes a mid value. So if you got to layer one more, that's okay. Just a little bit of shadow underneath these eyes here.
This rabbit reminds me of someone we know so much, but I'll tell you who later.
Well, that's not fair to everybody. Do they know who it is?
No, they don't know.
Okay.
No, it's just us.
Okay. Tell me later. Sorry, you guys, you're not invited to that part. All right, now we're gonna move on to step 4. We're gonna do the same thing except on the chest and the body. So I still have my dark brown. If you need to mix more, go ahead and do so. And again, I'm mixing this dark brown by using golden brown, coffee brown, and black. If you want to make it a more red brown, you can add your crimson in there. And when you paint in your neck, you can see I'm doing uneven brush strokes here. And that is because the white chin is on top of the neck. So we have to have kind of like this uneven texture here because that is what that fur texture would be. It wouldn't be perfectly round and smooth because there's fur there. So I'm kind of getting ahead of the curve by already making an uneven line, and then you can go in with your bleed proof white at the end and do some more hairs. Now you want to make sure that this neck and the chest is a dark value, dark. And the reason why I say that is because if we're trying to communicate depth from a front-facing perspective, we need to show that that neck and chest is receding and it's on a different plane than the face. And how we do that is we push the neck and the chest back by using a darker value, and then the face and especially the nose and the mouth are going to be highlighted because that's what's coming out at us. That's how we make that space in there. So make sure that's nice and dark. Especially too, the job of this bunny is also casting a shadow on that neck and on that chest. So it's twofold. It's to create space, and also because the form itself is creating shadows. And then you kind of just like blend it out to a light value using water. And I like to do uneven finishes on the bottom of things instead of going all the way to the end. Okay. That is feeling good. Look at this cute little guy. Okay. Now we're going to move on to step 5. We're going to do the mouth. So this is where you can use your round 4. If you have a round 2, you might want to use it because we're doing thin lines. You can use your liner too, but just so you know, sometimes when you're just doing short brush strokes with the liner, sometimes it gets tricky because how long it is, it can get caught up and accidentally create these marks that you didn't mean. So I'm going to use my round 2 and grab black. And right where there's going to be nostrils, I'm going to do my black there. Okay. On the other side. And then where the mouth meets. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to rinse my brush, and using just water and pulling the color that I've already laid down, we're going to do a gray. So that gray is going to extend almost all the way to the end of our white. But I'm still leaving white. Now if you are blending out and that gray just keeps going and you don't leave white, don't stress, because we do have bleed proof white. We can go back and put those on there. Okay, and then pulling from this black, I'm going to do a little bit of shadow coming out from where these two parts of the mouth are meeting.
You mentioned these in other tutorials, but maybe this is someone's first time. I'm noticing that in some instances you push the water towards the color, and in others you pull the color away from the original. Why do you do that?
It's because you can, wherever you want your values to be, you can push your brush stroke to help with that. So for example, if I'm painting black and I want that gray and black to move down, then I would do downward brush strokes, like so. And then let's say I'm like, oh, that's too much gray, too much gray, too much gray, need to push it back. You rinse your brush using just water, you push it back the other way. And any extra color will go towards where you want to keep it. Does that make sense? Was that
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so there's just a slight shadow coming out, and I did an outline here because this top part we keep white. It's this bottom part is the gray. And that's because this is the tip, and then this is actually recedes. because the nose goes like this. You see?
A rabbit's teeth never stop growing. They
Really?
have to constantly like eat things to wear them down.
Oh, is that how they wear them down?
Yeah, and if you have like a pet rabbit who's not getting enough chewing exercise, you gotta go get them like trimmed up.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have my nose highlighted here, and I'm just going to do a little touch of color right in the middle. Like so. Gosh, isn't this bunny's cute? He's coming together. Still got a ways to go, but he's starting to feel like a form. Okay, now we're moving on to step 6. We're getting close here. Now, before we do that, I'm gonna finish my eyes up. When I'm painting, and you guys can probably tell by looking, I tend to leave thin white lines in between places. And I do that just as a safety precaution, because sometimes even if an area appears dry and I'm painting right next to it, and if they touch or if they cross and then all these colors bleed, it's very frustrating. So on areas that I want to stay really, really sharp, like eyes, I usually try and leave really thin white lines around it so there's no chance of that accidental crossing. But what that means is as I'm getting close to being done with the painting, I have to go back in and address some of those white spaces. So I'm just going to use water and kind of pull the brown that's already there and try and close in that white gap without touching the black. Okay? Same thing on the other side. And this is a barely there color. And then across the top too, we can't forget. Okay. Then the next thing I'm going to do is using just water. If you look at the shine of the eyes, it's actually white on the outside, gray on the inside, and then black. So I'm just going to do a swoop across the inside and make that gray. Same thing on the other side, just swoop it, make that gray. If you need to do another layer of black on some of the areas, you can. Just kind of be aware of where it's wet on your painting. And if you don't want it to bleed anywhere, don't touch it in that spot. Isn't it funny how adding just that like swoop of gray adds so much more realism to those eyes?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yeah, that looks good.
Rabbits almost have 360-degree vision.
Really?
Yeah, look where their eyes are positioned and like how far they protrude out of their head.
Yeah, yeah. And then before we do our fur textures, if you feel like that there is an area that you need to do another layer of a darker value, please do that now. The fur textures is kind of like a finishing detail. So I'm doing one more kind of like darker value where these eye sockets would be a little bit. And just blending it out.
Did you know you can in general tell if an animal is a predator or prey by where their eyes are?
No.
Yeah, think about it. So like most predator animals' eyes are in the front. So you can like focus on a single thing and go after it. And prey animals have eyes more on the side of their head so they can
see what's coming
all
around.
the time. Yep.
Well, I'll be darned. That makes sense. Okay, going around the mouth, underneath the eye again. Just doing one more run. You might not have to do this, and this is where you look at your painting and make that decision for you, because you might have done it dark enough already that you don't need to do this. Or you might just like the colors and the textures and the blooms that you got. Don't be afraid of letting our viewers see these layers, these brush strokes. It does not, again, it does not have to be perfectly smooth.
This whole painting I've really loved under that left eye, that light spot. Just kind of looks like how real fur is, you know?
Yeah, kind of like that uneven lighting on it. Okay, now I'm going to do the fur spots on the chest first. So I'm going to mix a dark brown. You got to make sure it's a darker value or else it's not going to show up. So do a darker value than what's already there. And just following the outline, if you can still see it, I'm going to put in these little fur textures. Like that. And after I put them in, I like to just gently blend a little bit. Just to soften them. And you can even do a little bit here and there. Now, when it comes to like fur and hair and leaves and like lots of tiny, tiny things that make up one big thing, your brain is going to tell you that you need to do tiny little brush strokes and paint every single hair and paint all of the things. Don't listen to your brain. Because really what happens is to get a sense of actual form and depth when painting trees, hair, fur, is you actually look for the areas that they gather and then paint those values. Okay, so like if you're looking at hair, you're gonna look and see where does this hair chunk up? So you can tell like this chunk is behind, it's a darker value, this chunk is together, it's in the front. And then you do little details, little hairs coming out, a little texture here and there. If you do not change up the values and just do a bunch of lines, it's not gonna communicate form. It's gonna make it look really flat. So that's why when we do animals or fur textures or what we're doing here, I just do texture here and there instead of across the entire thing and focus more on the values and the form that I'm trying to create. Okay. And sometimes it's helpful to do little noises when you're painting fur. I like to do like just, you know, here and there. And you'll notice that when I got to the lighter value parts on the side, I went with a lighter value fur texture. Where here, when it was shadowed, I made sure my value was darker so it would show up. But if I use this same dark on out here, it would like really throw it off. And it wouldn't actually feel like it was part of that section. It would feel like it was on top of it. Does that make sense? Okay, we're almost done, you guys. You're doing awesome. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing kind of on the top of the rabbit. Now, depending on where you are on the body, the hair length can change. Usually on the forehead specifically, the fur or hair length is shorter than maybe on the body. And so to communicate shorter hair as opposed to longer hair, whenever you're painting the sections, you're going to adjust the length of your brush stroke. So here I did a little bit longer, and then when I get to the top where it's short fur, my brush strokes are gonna be short, like tiny little dashes instead of actual length things. You see, does that make sense?
Yes.
So I'm gonna do little dashes here and there on the top of the head.
Stubble.
Yeah, like kind of more like stubble. And again, we're just trying to give a hint of the fur texture. We're not going all out full detail because that's just not how I paint. Some artists do, and it's incredible.
You mean me, right?
Yep.
I'm just kidding, you guys. You have to know, it's totally not me.
I felt like this needed one more wash. Okay. Yeah, that's looking good. And then when we get to the ears too, do a little bit on the ears. And these ones can be a little bit longer too. You can do it on the end, like in it, and also maybe like on the very edges. Just a little like here and there.
Sarah, that just got me thinking about my own painting style. Because I feel like I'm a pretty good follow directions painter. And I feel like a lot of people out in Llama Land probably feel that same way. what is the cliff you jump to get from follow directions painter to make directions painter? Is it just practice?
Oh yeah.
Just painting a lot.
Just painting a lot, painting a lot. And if you're at the stage where you're following tutorials to paint to learn, there's nothing wrong with that. When you're ready to start making original artwork, like actually your own style original artwork, that's when you put the tutorials away. That's when the artists that you love and love their style, you put them away too. And you just make decisions on your own. And it's scary and it's hard and it takes a lot of practice to get there. So if you're not there yet, that's okay. But that is a good indication of when you're making stuff. Does that make sense? And how you get there is by following tutorials, is by just painting everything, painting all the time, and just getting more confident and comfortable in the decisions that you're making till one day you can put stuff away and just paint. Does that mean you can't use reference photos? You can absolutely still use reference photos. However, just a word of caution, photography is a form of art itself, and so not any photo is up for grabs in terms of copying and emulating it. That's why if I'm using reference photos, I use commercial-free images on websites like Pixabay and Unsplash, or you can use your own photos as reference, but just because it's a different medium does not mean it's free game to use. Okay, now we're on our very last step and we're using that liner too. I got it ready. And we're putting the finishing details. We're doing our whiskers and our eyelashes. So I'm taking my liner 2, I'm grabbing black. If you got to do a couple practice thin line brush strokes before you go for it, do it. And what that looks like, you could just grab your paper and just kind of, but look how easy it is to get those thin lines with that liner. Remember, light pressure, vertical hold. Okay? So, at the top of the eye, you got the eyelashes. And you'll notice that I'm doing different lengths. Okay? And I'm going to turn my paper around. Well, it's actually, I'm going to kind of angle it to do the other side. Okay. You can see, yeah, you can see this one curved more. And if that's the case where one side is curved more, what I'll do instead of trying to correct this, I'll just go in here and do more kind of angled out so they match. Okay. And then some curved going this way. Like so. And then we got whiskers. So kind of in this brown area between the white mouth and the cheeks is where these whiskers are kind of coming out. And we're just going for it. Remember to make your whiskers curved. Try not to make them like super straight lines. Let them have like a soft curve in there. Ooh, that one got a little crazy. That's okay. We're gonna do curves this way.
That's its lucky whisker.
Yeah, it's the lucky one. Has a matching one on this side. Like that. Down here too. And then our very last step is I'm going to use this liner too with some bleed proof white and just kind of do some white textures. So I'm grabbing white. So on the inside of the ear here, I'm going to do thin lines coming up to show that there's fur. Like so.
Wow, that makes such a difference.
Yeah, doesn't it? Doesn't it just add a little, just these little details here and there. Remember, I'm not doing it across the whole thing. It's just where the hair would be gathered like so. And then on the bottom too, don't forget the chin. That. And then if you forgot to put in a glare, you can put that in just along the bottom right, like so. And our rabbit is done.
Beautiful.
Isn't it beautiful? Okay, if you're on Facebook, I would love to see this. You can share your work at Let's Make Art Watercolor. If you are on Instagram, you can tag us at Let's Go Make Art or hashtag Let's Make Art. And if you need any of these supplies, you can find them at letsmakeart.com. Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.